Hello, dear learners. You all are welcome in my today's class. This is Inayat Hossain Khan, English teacher, Lokhinarayan Cotton Mills High School. Dear learners, today we will discuss about classification of verbs. This item is very important for class 9 and 10 because in your SSC syllabus you have an item that is called right form of verbs, and if you would like to do better in this sector, then you must know the classification of verbs. And if you know the classification of verbs very well, if you know their use also, then you will be able to write down the correct sentence, as well as you'll be able to speak English with correct sentence. So, dear learners, let's start today's class. Have a look on the board. The verb is actually divided into two types, that is finite verb and non-finite verb. And come to the main point. How can we identify, how can we mark the finite verb? Actually, finite verb takes place with subject, and non-finite verb hasn't any subject. So dear learners, keep it in your mind. Finite verb takes place with subject and non-finite verb hasn't any subject. Now we will try to understand the classification of finite verb. So have a look. Finite verb mainly divided into two types. First one is auxiliary and second one is principal. So auxiliary verb, its another name is helping verb, because it helps the main verb or principal verb in the sentence, and principal verb acts like the principal in a sentence. It is the main verb because it has own meaning. Now we will try to know the classification of auxiliary verbs. Have a look. Auxiliary verb is divided into two types, that is primary auxiliary and modal auxiliary. Primary auxiliaries are be verb, do verb and have verb, and in details be verb is like am, is, are, was, were, and do verb do, does, did, have verb have, has, had. Dear learners, I hope you understood the primary auxiliaries. Now we will try to understand the modal auxiliaries. Modal auxiliaries have a special meaning in the sentence. I would like to tell modal auxiliaries take place with another principal verb, and each and every modal auxiliary verb has a special meaning. And I think in your previous classes you studied about the modal auxiliaries, they are actually can, could, may, might, must, shall, should, will, would, have to, has to, had to, ought to, etc. Dear learners, now we will try to know about the classification of principal verbs. Principal verb is divided into two parts or two categories or two types, like transitive and intransitive. Come to the point. How can we identify the transitive verb and intransitive verb? Actually, transitive verb has object and intransitive verb hasn't any object. Dear learners, take notes or keep it in your mind that transitive verb hasn't any object. Transitive verb has object and intransitive verb hasn't any object. And non-finite. How can we identify the non-finite? I said before, non-finite hasn't any subject. And non-finite is divided into three types. That is infinitive, participle and gerund. Come to the main point. How can we identify the infinitive? Actually, infinitive means 2 plus base form of the verb, or you may say 2 plus present form of the verb. Then participle. Participle actually acts like adjective, and participle is divided into three types: present participle, past participle and perfect participle. Now, first of all, what is present participle? You know, present participle means the base form of the verb plus ing, and past participle means the past form of the verb. Perfect participle. Perfect participle actually takes place with having. For example, we can say having done the work, or having finished the work, like that. Now we will discuss about the last part or last category, that is gerund. Actually, dear learners, gerund acts like noun in the sentence. So that's all about the classification of verb. In very short time, I tried my best to make you clear the categories or classifications of verbs, and I hope it will be easier to you than before. And dear learners, you should study at your home this chapter attentively, because this chapter is very important. It is also related with other grammatical items of your syllabus, and that's why I started the class from the very basic or fundamental issues, that is classification of verb. And in our next class we will discuss about right form of verbs. I would like to tell the next class will be held on right form of verbs. There we will try to learn the rules of right form of verbs, and today's class will be helpful for you for the next class. Dear learners, I hope you will study this chapter very attentively at your home, and we will see again in the next class with right form of verbs. Until then, stay safe. Allah Hafiz.